out of ideas.
What's up, y'all? It's Kabe here again. We're back at another video. You saw the thumbnail, read the title, and know what you're in for, so let's get right into this. Today we're gonna be breaking down a sample like the old days. This is like a neo soul, jazzy, R&B-ish sample, and I kind of built on top of the idea that I talked about in the last video of simplicity and just keeping things more simple. This is what we're gonna see today. Let's just hop into this. Okay, so like everything that I do, I start with the chords. These are the chords that we are working with today. And it's the same idea from that last video. I played some notes in here. I added some notes afterwards. This is a simple progression that you heard, multiple times. But I think what really makes this is the sound that we are using. I'm using the Prince again. It's this candle glow preset that we have here. And it just sounds so nice. And just a Pro Q3, just this, the Prince and a Pro Q3. I'm doing something a little bit different right now, which is I'm using more of these return tracks. I was mixing a song the other day and I use return tracks like you usually do for reverb and delays, and it just got me thinking, like, why don't I do this on my samples and my beats, And for people that don't know, a return track, it's just an effects track, right? So in Ableton, you can just insert here a return track. I put Valhalla Vintage Verb here. It's 100% on the mix, obviously low cutting and cutting a little bit more of the lows with Pro Q3. What I'm doing is that you're gonna see on almost every track, not the bass, I'm sending the signal from these tracks to this reverb. So all of this is going to the same reverb here, which is, nothing revolutionary. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. It's just something that I don't usually do. I would just put the reverb on the track, and I'm saying it's not that big of a deal, but the effect that this gives me is, since everything is going to the same reverb with the same settings and everything sounds more cohesive. Everything sounds like it's in the same space and it's in the same universe, Okay, so after I added those chords on the Prince, I pulled up this keyscape, which is my favorite keys VST. I pulled up this Rode sounds. I just copied over the same chords here. And this is the progression that we have here. On the track, we have a Pro Q3, cutting out the lows. Again, I cut out the lows of everything besides the bass. Wolf compressor, one of my favorite compressors ever. And again, we're sending that same signal to our reverb here. So it's on the same reverb as those other keys and those other instruments. And this is where I kind of started to hone this idea of this really slow ballad with some saxophones and trumpets and everything. And this is what got me started on this idea, this trumpet here, like this saxophone sound that we have here. Really simple line, bro. Really simple line. I'm trying to keep things simple, and this is part of it. The sound that we're using here, it's a bank from Contact. It's the Session Horns Pro, but what I'm doing is, instead of using the actual full bank, the ensemble, I'm going to solo instruments, and I just pick the auto sax, which is the first one, and I just played that pattern. I don't think I messed with anything here. I played this on my keyboard and it sounds really good. The thing that I didn't understand at first when using these Contact banks, I would usually always go to the ensemble and just use that, but you can get much more out of these banks from using the solo instruments and having each track be its own instrument. That might be obvious. That's kind of obvious to me right now, but it wasn't obvious to me like a year ago or 2 years ago. So if you have contacts and you bought any of like these banks and stuff, try out the solo instruments. You know, it takes a little bit more work to, you know, compose the lines because you need to do every single instrument, but it sounds so much better. So I just played this on my keyboard, Pro Q3, cutting the lows, UAZ, Verve, Analog Machines, which is a free plugin from Universal Audio. It's just like a tape, like warmer. The UAZ LA2A, which is again one of my favorite compressors here, like the Glue compressor, the Wolf compressor, and this one are I think the only compressors that I use. And Echo Boy Jr. doing the delay. This one I'm putting straight on the track. So this already gives us the vibe that we are going for. And at this point, when I'm making the sample and I'm trying to keep things simple, instead of doing this like crazy horns like section that I would usually do like with 10 different like horn instruments, I'm like, okay, let me just build on top of this just a little bit so we can have a little bit of a section here, but not just, let's not do too much. So what I did, I just grabbed the same bank, I used the mute trumpets and played this line here. Really simple, really smooth. I don't know if you caught this already, but most of the velocities are way down. Like everything is really like calm and chill and like, you know, like this night ballad kind of vibe. And to build on top of that, I just added this like bass trombone, again from that same Contact Session Horns Pro bank. Really simple line, again just building on top to create this like different variations, this different sections to that sample. I like to treat my samples almost like a song. I'm always thinking how this can translate into a song later when I'm making these. So my thought process when I'm doing like these horn lines and everything is, let me create this like verse and like this hook section, something that, you know, people can just drum up and make a song out of it. So we use the same Contact bank, again Pro Q3. It's the same thing, Verve Analog Machines LA2A, the same treatment here. I just Command A to select everything, Command C to copy, and you can just Command V and you paste all of the plugins with the same presets and everything. When I had this, it was time to add a bass. I grabbed my bass here, it's a P bass. I plugged it in, I used the stock Ableton amp, which is my favorite amp. I put it on the bass setting here, I tuned it, it's always good to have a tuner, and I laid down this really simple bass line here. I'm not at the point that I can get, this is not my ideal like bass tone. I hear some bass tones from other people and they sound so warm and so good. I cannot achieve the bass tone that I want. This is kind of good enough, but you know, I wish my bass would sound, you know, a little bit warmer. I don't know if it's the actual instrument or how I'm treating it, or if I need to do something else. If you guys have any tips on how to get like a more like warmer, like vinyl-ish bass tone, I would appreciate that. So this is the body of our sample. This is everything that we really need just to build a little bit more on top, again on that idea of treating it kind of like a song. I just pulled up this Sensual Saxophone, which it's a bank by Ambertone. I'm pretty sure this is a really old bank, and I have this like forever, and it just sounds so good, bro. Whenever I need a saxophone sound, this is like my go-to, and it sounds nice. So this is the saxophone line that I laid. This is just an improv. I just had this looping here with Command L. You can quickly loop a section in Ableton. I just had this looping and playing on the keyboard, and whenever I figure out something that I liked, I just use the capture MIDI like I always do, and I just had this saxophone line here. It was just an improv line that I played on the keyboard. It just sounded good, so I just kept it. I didn't mess with it. That's why I like playing instruments, you know. Whenever I first got into making samples and everything, I was just clicking in on FL Studio, and clicking in is fine, but at the point when you're doing this like every week, like almost every day, playing is just so much more fun. So I just played this, capture MIDI, and as you can see, one thing on this bank which is really important is this like gigantic knob, like the sax knob that we have here. It modulates the instrument different. It adds like reverb and more accents when you're changing the notes and everything. So let me play this with the automation on the mod wheel, and you can see the mod wheel changing. This was just me playing on the keyboard. It's just the mod wheel automation, and when you capture MIDI, it also captures mod wheel and the pitch wheel and everything. So it just sounded good, and this acts like a hook part on the sample, right? Verve, Analog Machines again, LA to A again, and Echo Boy Jr. again, and this is also, you know, sending to our reverb. As you can see, all of the horn instruments that we have here have the same effects on them. That's the same idea that I was talking about with the return tracks. Having the same instruments makes it feel like they're on the same universe, that they're coming from the same place, the same room, the same equipment and everything. And nowadays we have so many instruments, you know, so many effects. Sometimes I use like a vintage verb, and then on another instruments I use a hollow room and whatever. And there's no rules, you know, there's no like right or wrong. But doing this and just copying over the same effects, obviously you can change a little bit, you know, here and there, but it's copying the same effects and using the same effects. The same effects chain kind of emulates like a analog studio rack when you're having the same effects and everything going through the same processing. So this is the idea, and this is pretty much it for the sample. This is everything. And again, I'm trying to keep things more simple recently with all of my samples. I've been trying to make them more into songs. I mean, I guess my chords were always more on the simpler side. I see so many people that have such a great sound. They have like the synths down and like vocals down and the processing down, but there are chords that are so complex. Like there's some samples sometimes that I try to use and everything sounds good, but the chords are just so much. Like people have 7 chord progressions, 8 chord progressions, and just go so many places that it's just not easy to drum and it's not easy to write to. So I've been trying to make my stuff more simple so people can drum it more, people can write to it and record to it. I feel like this is a good balance. You know, it was a quick cook up. It didn't take that much time to make, and it sounds cool. So I appreciate you sticking in to the end of this video. This sample is available on my latest release, Allure. It's available on outofideas.co. First link on the description. This sample and other 23 more samples, and if you buy it on outofideas.co, you get the premium bundle, which comes with a drum stash that I've been using recently on my beats. This Allure drum kit comes with 7 other drum loops and other 9 bonus samples that are only available if you buy it on outofideas.co. This sample is available there with stems and everything, so if you want to drum this up, if you want to build on top of this, you can get Allure on the first link in the description. I'm running a first week sale on it. It's 50% off, so there's no better time literally to get this back than right now. So if I were you, I would get it. outofideas.co, first link on the description. I appreciate you if you follow me on Instagram and follow Out of Ideas on Instagram, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you so much. Bye.